Tribe in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I wanted to set the table with that video. Tribe is a very important group to me. Tribe is my favorite rap group. Tribe is responsible for my favorite rap album, which is Midnight Marauders. I first heard of Tribe when I was 8 or 9 years old. Actually, the first thing I saw was the Left My Wallet in El Segundo video, which it caught my eye because it seemed so funny at the time. Like, my memories of rap at the time were very much like NWA, Public Enemy, Eric B. and Rakim, EPMD. Videos always felt very heavy. The stakes always felt very high. It always felt like a little bit of cold and dark and dangerous. And I remember being struck by how funny that video was. I didn't even really like that song, I Left My Wallet in El Segundo, a bunch when I was a little kid. Beat wise, it just felt like kind of like a normal, just like very run of the mill boom bap beat to my ears. But that video was just something else to me. And I was like, where is El Segundo? Like, these guys live in New York. I didn't know, like, the story didn't make any sense to me. But like four strangely dressed black dudes in this comedic video about them driving, I guess, across country, and there's little people, and there's having to go back because you left your like, it didn't make no sense. But I liked the vibe of it. It was very inviting to me. And then, yeah, when I saw the video, Bonita Applebum, my mind was like blown. It didn't sound like nothing else at the time. It was so smooth, so welcoming, so inviting. And then to later find out that they're a part of like the Native Tongues thing with De La Soul, is that so much of the rest of hip hop looked like the world outside my window that I wanted to escape from it. And stuff like Tribe and De La was providing this this hip hop that seemed to have this imagination with it, so where it wasn't just limited to the reality of the cold ass world outside my window. So that was always very inviting to me. And so that was their first album, was like opening the door to me. The second album, Low End Theory, my main experience of it as it came out was that the video for Scenario blew my mind. Like introducing me to Leaders of the New School and Busta Rhymes. The other singles off of that was like Check the Rhyme and Jazz. Those kind of went under my radar. Again, I was 10. Again, because I was so interested in music outside of the experience of what was in front of me, I listened to a lot of rock music as a young person. I had MTV, I had cable in my house, and I was a latchkey kid because I lived with my grandparents and they didn't want me to go outside a lot with all of the gunshots and crack that was being distributed in the streets around our building. So in indulging all the television and the cable television watching that I was doing, I encountered a lot of different styles of music, mostly through watching MTV. Alternative music was really big for me. But even before that, like, I was looking at hair metal videos, 80s pop, 90s pop, like Madonna, like everything. I was just always consuming all of the music on MTV. But the rise of alternative was really big for me, and like college rock. So like REM, of course, They Might Be Giants, Ween, King Missile, all of that stuff was huge. Like, and I felt like at that time, at least in the schools I went to, it felt very much like you had to choose. Like, you had to be into rap or into rock, or like you had like your identity. Even though we were all in middle school, our identity was defined by what we consumed. So it didn't feel like you could listen to both. And I started getting bored with alternative music shortly after like Kurt Cobain died. I feel like I don't know if it was specifically because of that. I just remember not having much I felt like I was looking forward to after that. So I was still into like the college side of it, but the mainstream grunge side seemed like it was getting stale. I feel like this was like the rise of like Creed and that sort of stuff that I wasn't into as much. But I started really digging into rap again, and I started there were like 3 albums that really got me back into rap music. This is around like 94. So this was Common's Resurrection. It was The Roots, Do You Want More? I remember there was this kid who was my best friend in 7th or 8th grade. We used to ride the school bus together because we were part of the few, black kids on the south side that got bused to this school on the north side of Chicago. And he was into rap, and he let me borrow The Roots, Do You Want More? And let me borrow Common's Resurrection. And these them 2 albums kind of reset my love for hip hop. Like, it felt like those 2 albums felt like extensions of what I was into about De La and Tribe, what I learned about them when I was younger. But now this was encountering the young me that was devouring albums. So from there, I'm like, okay, I want to know about everything in this universe now. So like the next 2 things I bought with my own money were Old Dirty's album. I didn't hear I didn't even hear Into the Wu-Tang and Method Man's album. I went straight to Dirty's because I love the Shimmy Shimmy Ya video. And then Midnight Marauders, which had been out a year at that point already. But Midnight Marauders was, I think, the first or second CD I bought with my own money. And Midnight Marauders, not only just because of the music, but because of the CD cover, the cover and the booklet, where it had all of the heads and the faces on it. And, you open it up and you see all these faces, and then you read their shout outs. I was big on reading the shout outs. So like Organized Confusion albums, Roots albums, like I wanted to know every star in this constellation of these rappers. So Midnight Marauders, aside from being what I thought was like perfect rap music for my 13, 14-year-old ears, like perfect rap music. I don't know. I mean, now I guess I understand that it was mostly about Q-Tip's sample selection and the way he was doing his drums. But I just felt like this album was just mixed so beautifully. I mean, not mixed. I didn't have vocabulary for that at the time. I just thought it sounded so good and so clean and so melodic, and I just loved how all of the beats sounded. And so like I would just listen to the CD over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah, Bob Power. Shout out to Bob Power. And so then from that album, then I fully go back and I'm buying the Tribe albums that I missed, the De La albums that I missed. I get into Busta Rhymes solo. Like that was really like the open door for me, was Midnight Marauders. And then that takes us to Beats, Rhymes, and Life, which I did not love when it came out. I remember being very excited for it because this was the first Tribe album that was rolling out when I was an active fan, but I wasn't super into it when I got it because I feel like the first half of that album reflects this, like it's the industry as a whole around like 96, 97 kind of turned back to like this cold, dark reality thing that was never like my shit. So the industry sort of turned to like the Mobb Deep. Wu-Tang was a big part of that. I liked the more imaginative parts of Wu-Tang, but it also had the foundation and sort of that cold darkness. The Roots album that came out at that time, Illadelph Half-Life. When I talked to Questlove for what had happened was, we talked about why that album was so dark. And his explanation was that was largely the feeling of underground hip hop at that time, was like this rugged, sort of cold, heavy feeling that personally I was never into. And for Beats, Rhymes, and Life, I feel like the first half of it is very steeped in that, and it's kind of like depressing to me. Then it opens up in the latter half and gets sort of like jazzy and uplifting the way I preferred them to sound. And then the Love Movement was after that. I love the Love Movement. I know a lot of people don't love that album. I love the Love Movement. I started college in 98, and the first real job I had on campus was I worked at the campus car wash. So it was the car wash that washed all of the vehicles for every like all the police vehicles on campus, the work trucks, like all of that, they all got washed at this garage, and I was the only employee. So it was just me and a boombox and whatever tapes I was putting in it. So I'm just washing cars all day by myself and listening to music. And so one of the main memories I have of the Love Movement is really just sort of creating this world for myself when I'm by myself washing these cars and just playing the Love Movement over and over and over and over and over and over again. Um, and I think just the isolation of being in school, you being away from home for the first time too, like I really sort of grounded myself at that job and with that album. Um, and then there was the sadness of them breaking up after that. Um, Q-Tip solo albums, which is a ride all their own. Um, and then they came back in 2016 with "Thank You for Your Service," shortly after Fife's passing, and it came out the same week that Donald Trump got elected. It just felt like this perfect band-aid from the universe that in this sort of nightmare scenario that I felt like we were in, because at the time it just seemed inconceivable after the tape, grab him by the blank, whatever. It just seemed inconceivable that he would win after that, and he did. And I feel like it broke us. I feel like we're still a little broken because of that. But then, like that weekend, we got the Tribe album too, and it just felt like this one little glimmer of something good in the world. All of their albums are very meaningful for me in different ways at different times of my life. But this has always been the most important rap group to me that made the best rap music. So now they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I love it. But it feels a little weird. Now, I don't have an answer to why it feels weird. So part of why I want to talk about this is to open this up. This is more of an open question than like a fully formed take type thing. But I wanted to explore this idea of a Tribe Called Quest in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and trying to unpack this for myself. Like, why does this feel a little weird? One of the first things that my brain wanted to know is what other rappers are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so I found this list. And I don't think any of them are a surprise. But I think it leads to some questions, right? Okay, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, which makes sense. They had like the first like meaningful rap song single that was a hit in The Message, and just were one of like the first real rap groups that happened. Because Sugar Hill Gang was sort of like put together. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five were like a real rap group from the streets that figured it out and was putting out music and made a huge impact. Run DMC, obviously the first like huge touring, like mainstream hit rap act. So of course, like just foundationally, you have to have them if there's a Hall of Fame of any sort, just including rappers. You got to have Run DMC. It makes perfect sense, right? Beastie Boys, interesting. Another huge group. But I think once you get to the Beastie Boys, you're inviting this question of, are there other rap groups of the time or rap acts of the time that you're leaving off when you're including them? Important for sure. Foundational for sure. Opened up the idea of what the genre could be for sure. And successful. Sold a bunch of records. And you start to get that sense too, that that's part of the criteria for choosing this. Is success. Is industry success. Public Enemy, incredibly important. Probably the height of what you can achieve with countercultural messaging via hip hop, which has always been a dangerous thing to do when you have a platform, but it's what they were designed to do. And there's a lot of reason on paper where you will feel like there's no way this thing could be successful. But they managed to do it. And I really feel like the reason why is that they never lost sight of what hip hop had to sound like, of what effective hip hop had to sound like. you had to still be able to play it at a party. It couldn't just be preaching. It had to have the energy of the genre in it. And I felt like they were always excellent about keeping that balance. But again, as successful you can be with a certain thing that is part of the spirit of rap music, that, you know, there's a lot of conversation today about where that spirit is now, but it used to be very present, and they were on the vanguard of that. NWA, which represented it's a similar intent to Public Enemy, except for on the West Coast, with different issues that it's addressing and a different way of life that it's reflecting. And through NWA, you get Easy, you get Dr. Dre, you get Ice Cube, giants in rap music, and ultimately establishing a genre within the genre with gangster rap music. So of course, if there's a Hall of Fame, they're in there. Tupac, one of the biggest artists of all time. Just and like, I think, you know, the word iconic you have to use when it comes to Pac. It's so interesting now because since he's unfortunately no longer with us, pardon me, I think it's hard for the current youth in hip hop to really understand what his impact was just by listening to his music. Because he was the biggest rapper in the world without question at one point, it felt like. And the devotion to him inside of like Black America in general was just mad huge. Like, you used to go in people's houses and they would have, like, you know, a poster of Jesus and like a poster of Tupac. Like, it was that serious. His approach, his persona resonated in the community in a way that, like, it was a little bigger than the music. Biggie, obviously, I think in many ways established a template for what it means to be a mainstream rapper now. The first one to, I think, successfully marry like a street sound, like a very effective and resonant street sound with like club music in a way that felt seamless. I always felt like that was the genius of Big's career, was being able to straddle that line, and then doing it so well, he made that the new benchmark. Like, if you couldn't do both, you couldn't be taken seriously in a way. And I think that blazed the trail for the Jay-Z's and the Drakes and everyone to come after him, was being able to do both of those things, being able to rap really, really well for the rap fans, and also to create these club festive moments for people to celebrate with. And in LL, which I think is an extension of Big, I think LL's it was a little less seamless when he went between the two, the hardcore rap and the love ballads, but he was very important in establishing that pattern as well, and doing it successfully over decades. Again, a very important figure in rap. And then Jay-Z, the modern era sort of synthesis of all of this into one person, is Jay, and being able to stay on top as long as he did and adapt through the eras that he adapted to and be as successful as he ultimately is. Okay, it certainly makes sense to have him in a Hall of Fame. And then Eminem, technical wise, a wizard. Technical wise, one of the most adept you can have. And then success wise, of course, damn near unparalleled as well. But again, I think once you get to the place where you're putting Eminem in, there's a lot of questions about who's left out. Like, it invites the questions of what these categories are. Invites the category of what the criteria is to get somebody in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a rapper. The Missy Elliott, incredibly successful, huge songs, genre defining to a certain degree in the visual artistry, in the hits. Has never been like the most rapidy rap person in the world, but that's not what she needed to be. Really defined a new era for like pop rap with real talent and musicianship and craftsmanship in it. Kool Herc. Now, Kool Herc invented hip hop, basically. Kool Herc put the two turntables together. Kool Herc DJ'd the first hip hop parties that existed ever before any of this. So, I mean, 2023, I think, is a late addition for a DJ Kool Herc. But again, it's like, okay, Eminem before Kool Herc? You know, like what are we doing? It's an interesting question, and it gets at a little bit of why Tribe's induction feels a little weird to me. Is how this is being gone about in terms of selection. And then Tribe, of course, just went in this year. Who should be? Who else should be in the Hall of Fame? I made a list, right? Slick Rick, I feel like should be in the Hall of Fame if there's a Hall of Fame for rap music. I feel like Slick Rick is such an important figure in it. The Wu-Tang. If you look at all of the criteria that's been established, I feel like the Wu-Tang fits right in. Changed the genre, changed the business, incredibly successful. I feel like they're the perfect addition. De La Soul, I feel like is right there next to Tribe in so many ways. I get the sense that maybe Tribe was a little more successful business-wise, but in terms of cultural impact and importance, I feel like they're right there neck and neck. It's an interesting question to me. It's like, why have one and not the other? Snoop seems like he's right there. That's America's sweetheart. I mean, I don't know how Snoop didn't get in already. I feel like Snoop should have got in before Eminem because they were already tracking like the giant artists in hip hop. I don't know what Snoop's what's caused Snoop to be left out. Seems like that certainly would have come up at any selection meeting. I nominate Snoop. Somebody would have, right? Queen Latifah's great, Catboy. I actually didn't put her on my list, but Queen Latifah, you would think right there next to Snoop is a shoe-in. DMX is a question, right? The success, again, unparalleled success. Nas is a good call. El Rito. Busta Rhymes, I would think. Outkast is a shoe-in. Like Outkast, I bet Outkast is next. Like I feel like the road to Outkast, you had to put Tribe in first. So I bet next year it's Outkast that gets picked. I wrote The Roots, I feel like, are on the table. I feel like The Roots are on the table. Cypress Hill, I would think as well. And all that to say is I think there's a lot of people who deserve this sort of honor for a lot of different reasons. And so when you get to these selections, I think it gets a little tricky. Too Short, I think, is a good one. Now, Mos Def, I don't feel like is there yet. I don't feel like, I feel like everyone we've listed has had many interactions, many engagements with the music industry at large, many releases that are celebrated, except for Kool Herc, because Kool Herc never made an album as far as I'm aware. But the rest of these people have, okay. So this is part of what's weird about this, right? Because all of these acts were and are very commercially successful. And I can understand that being part of a metric. I was looking at Tribe's wiki. All of their albums have gone either gold or platinum. And they've got like 6 albums, 7 albums. That's an incredible feat in hip hop. Not many people can say that. But I get the sense with Tribe that what makes them a selection here is not necessarily because they're commercially successful. Because the one interesting thing about that too, when I was reading on Tribe's wiki that all of their albums have gone gold or platinum, none of their singles have gone gold or platinum, which is very unusual in the music business. With Tribe, there seems to be an importance that is not necessarily quantified in business success. And I'm all for rap acts that are important for reasons outside of commercial success being selected and honored. Like, I think that's a very important thing to do. But once you start doing that, you get into this question of who has decided what's important in hip hop and why. I feel like you need to be able to explain what has made a tribe important in the culture of hip hop. That I'm not sure if the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be the arbiters of that necessarily. I'm not sure they should be. I think the closest that we got, I don't know if y'all remember the VH1 Hip Hop Honors. That was, I feel like, as close as we have gotten to some sort of Hall of Fame that's covering different kinds of hip hop importance and putting in a number of an adequate number of people. I mean, because part of the danger of this too, right? They're doing a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it's a rock hall, so most of the inductees are rock. So they're only ever putting like one or no rap acts in at a time. And as I will never stop stressing, we lose giants in hip hop every year. We lose giants in hip hop every year. And every year that goes by where you don't give people the proper celebration and honor, you're losing another opportunity to give somebody their flowers while you can smell them. And I feel like in rap, we have to figure out a way to do that. I think ultimately that's what feels weird about this. Not that it's bad in any way that Tribe is in the Rock Hall of Fame, but I think it points to the need for some institution within hip hop to emerge where we can celebrate and honor the people who are important in hip hop in an adequate amount of time. Like, we don't have 20 years for them to sprinkle in one or two people here and there. We lose giants every year. Like, we need something internal where it's not limited to one or two acts. So that's part of the weirdness for me. It's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I found this really interesting thread on Reddit. And by interesting, I mean terrible. How in the shit are rap artists making it into the Rock Hall of Fame when Maiden, and that's referencing Iron Maiden, isn't? This is utterly mind-blowing to me. It's got 247 upvotes and 125 comments. Rock Hall is a complete joke. I ignore anything having to do with it. This is the Iron Maiden subreddit, by the way. But I just did a quick search of Rock Hall of Fame, and this came up very early in the results. It's as if Planet Hollywood stayed in Orlando and the owners gave their buddies and businesses representation a plaque once a year to increase back film sales. I agree. Green Day got in before Deep Purple. Fuck Rock and Roll Hall of Lame. And it's like, these are very narrow-minded viewpoints, right? Clearly very narrow-minded viewpoints. But this is part of the challenge of it being the Rock Hall of Fame, right? Like, this is part of the challenge of them lumping all American popular music together under this guise of rock, when you have artists and acts who have been making music that's categorized as rock the whole time, and they're all waiting to get honored too. So you create this tricky situation where the people who consider themselves real rock fans are confused by it. Rap fans are frustrated by it because we're only allowed in like in a trickle, when rap music has been so important to the music industry for so long. It really points at the need for a rap-centric sort of institution. And maybe every genre needs its own. Again, it's like in rap music, we end up so dependent on the industry at large that I think it often does us a disservice. Because the question for me, who bears the responsibility for naming what's ultimately important in rap music? Like, does the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame bear the responsibility for pointing out what's culturally important in rap music? And if they are, like, who are these people? Like, if they have the power to do that, what information do they have? What experiences have they had? If they're in charge of naming when the time comes to celebrate what is or isn't important in rap music, it calls all those things into question. How do we define our value when the value is not just sales? So even to us, it's like the question is, what are our metrics, right? Like, I think Tribe is important for music reasons, for image reasons, for music community reasons. You know, you don't get the Dilla without Tribe, like, and then you follow that tree and you get to Madlib, and you know, like, there's a cultural importance that we have to figure out the language of how to unpack and how to present. And I'm sure that there are some scholars who are doing that. It's just that I feel like people for whom hip hop is important need to be armed with this language. We need to be armed with how to analyze, how to unpack the legacy of this music that we love and these artists that we love, that we know inherently this is important. We need to be able to say why, I feel like. Because if somebody like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame isn't getting it, we need to be able to communicate that if we're going to continue to allow that institution to have the power to decide when and where rap legends are going to be honored. How do we teach the culture at large who is important within the culture? Right? Because we need to celebrate KRS-One. We need to celebrate DJ Screw. We need to celebrate Dilla. We need to celebrate Roxanne Shante. We need to celebrate Bismarcky and MF Doom and Organized Noise and Shock G. And ultimately, this is the open question. How do we celebrate our legends? That's one reason I always fuck with Drink Champs. Like, as much as that platform can go super sideways and get crazy because they're just getting fucked up and talking, the foundation of it is that they want to celebrate their legends. We need more institutions that do that. So that when you're a Tribe Called Quest, you're not, you remember a few years ago, Q-Tip was pissed in 2017 that the Grammys brought them in to perform right after Phife died and then didn't nominate that album for any rap Grammys. Like, he felt really personally fucked up by that. He felt very dissed, very insulted by that, very disrespected. And I can understand that. I just want us to have a way to give our legends the respect where they don't need to seek it from other institutions. Because we need to have some sort of Hall of Fame, whether it's physical, just an idea of it, ideological, I should say, rather than as an idea. But we need a way to honor our legends. We don't need to wait on outside institutions to do that. Right now, acts have to wait for that because we haven't built anything of our own. And that's ultimately where the open question lies for me. How do we build an institution that honors our legends so that they don't need to be waiting around, passing away, waiting for validation from the music business at large, which is mostly concerned with. The music business at large is mostly concerned with commercial success. We have too many legends for whom their importance is not tied into commercial success. You can tell some of these people's story through artists who have had commercial success if you need that as a touchstone. And we will probably need, like I said, we'll need that sort of language to be able to explain to people why a DJ Screw was important, why MF Doom was important. But it ain't all about sales. And that's the problem we run into with the Grammys. It's the problem we run into with the Rock Hall of Fame. It's always about platinum albums. It's about a long legacy career. It's, you know, it's about the first to do this, the first to do that. And it's like, all that stuff is important, but it's not the only way that rap artists can be important. And we just need to figure out ways to celebrate artists when the sales isn't the easy answer. Because I think we're even getting there with like a Tupac now. Like, we're getting there. Like, so yeah, he might have smashed records with albums. I don't know. You know, I'm sure All Eyes on Me and and Machiavelli, and I'm forgetting the other album right around that era. Before he died. All Eyes on Me was the double, and it was the one right before that. I'm sure that one went platinum too. But that's not the story of Tupac. The story of Tupac is resonating with a culture. Me Against the World. Thank you, Purple Crown fan. The story of Tupac is resonating in a culture. The story of Tupac is like synthesizing what's going on in the streets, synthesizing his revolutionary background, and him being a little bit of a theater kid and knowing how to put that costume on. And ultimately how all of that synthesis led to his resonance and also had a hand in his own demise. Like, that's the story of Tupac. And the record sales are such a small part of that. Like, the story of the MF Doom is not about record sales, even though he's technically making more money with his music now than he ever did. The story is about how a rap artist chooses to reinvent himself after like an unimaginable loss. And him being able to pour that into a new approach and making music that resonates with an entire underground that was listening to all sorts of different stuff. To wearing a mask, like from him being like a person whose face was extremely public before, to not leaving the house without a mask on after that. Like, that's the story of Doom. And it ain't got nothing to do with record sales, or it has very little to do with record sales. And we have to figure out how to tell these stories. We have to figure out how to raise these people up. We have to figure out how to celebrate these people. We have to figure out how to give them awards and flowers within the system. And then, you know, it's not that it has to be invisible outside of the system. I think actually it would be helpful if it was very visible outside of the system. You know, like I said, I think the hip hop honors was as close as we got. It felt like there were people involved in that were really keen to what was important. But again, that's tied to the network VH1, which is a Paramount network, because they're making all their money off of like Love and Hip Hop or whatever nowadays. They don't even care about that no more. Like, that was a thing that was yearly that is now on the shelf. And for Paramount, it's just a business thing. Like, you know, but we have to have ways to celebrate these legends culturally that is not subject to the whims of business. This is becoming increasingly important as we lose people. You know, we're getting to a place too where, you know, with all the Diddy stuff going on, what's going on with Diddy is going to retroactively define an era. Like, that sort of bling excess era is going to be retroactively defined by what's uncovered in this Diddy saga. The media is going to do that. There was so much else going on in rap throughout that entire time that's going to be overshadowed by that. How do we tell the story of what was culturally important then? Outside of that, the resistance to that. These are the questions. These are the questions. It's an open question. People in the chat, I'd love to hear what you think. Like and subscribe, homie, friend. It's free. Stop playing.